So would love to hear about all of your experiences at ISTE this year.
So I'm a high school math teacher. So one of the things I've kind of been focusing on with AI is like how I can use AI to be like more creative within my math space. If I make slides or just make something a little bit more fun, they're more easily to buy into whatever I'm doing for the day. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on the last few days, and it's been really great. So
My big focus has been how to make sure that we're creating more engaging lessons. So I was doing a couple classes on like gamifying instruction, finding ways to like make learning fun again. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's really like genuinely the focus. But also ways to like take care of your students as people. Those are things I care about.
Love to hear more about especially like the math and AI. Like, what kind of impact can AI have in math versus maybe other types of curriculum?
So I think that's something that I'm kind of struggling with a little bit because like my focus for my students and my goals is I don't want them to memorize, I don't want them to follow a procedure, but I think hopefully using AI I can kind of implement more ways for it to be like realistic and attainable. One of the things I learned in my authentic assessment session was how can we use AI to help them with the process rather than just the product. So if they're doing research or whatever and using AI to do that, that ultimately they're able to gain whatever like real life math from that is kind of my goal. So yeah.
And then, what's been the biggest surprise coming to ISTE? What are you most surprised about?
I think the most surprising thing about ISTE is how willing people are to network. Today at lunch, I'm sitting at a table and two random strangers sit down with me, and immediately they want to talk to you. They want to find out who you are and where you come from and what your story is. It's not this thing that happens like one in every 20 people. It's every single person you meet wants to know exactly what you're doing, what classes you're taking, if you're working at a booth. Like, just everybody wants to know about you, and everybody's passionate and excited. And it's so rare that you walk into a room of people and everybody's thrilled to be there.
I mean, it makes so much sense. It attracts like the most extroverted, excited educators, and then it packs them all into this big conference center. So it's super cool.
I think my biggest surprise might be just the level of like personality that we've seen at SmartPass. I think as teachers, we get the chance to really talk to our kids all the time, and like we just are, I think, naturally like open and warm people. And the fact that we get the chance to come here and you guys are kind of doing that same like receptiveness and like we're so open arms to us, I think that was so amazing. Especially from like, you guys are from a different side of the world from us, right, in terms of ed tech and whatnot. And you're not in the classroom per se, but like the fact that you guys were so open to our suggestions, to what we did and what we experienced in our classrooms with SmartPass, and like wanted to hear our story. I love that. That was a really big surprise for me. And like everyone's like real warm. That's a big thing for me, honestly.
I love that so much. That's awesome. It's a lot of attendees at ISTE this year, and it's always just like kind of this great mix of like teachers and principals and IT and different vendors, plus like this whole other like whoever else is in the ed tech industry. What were some like highlights from sessions that you went to today or yesterday?
I think for me, one of the biggest takeaways from today, I got the chance to go to a class that was about like the different ways that schools should incorporate AI. I think the hardest part that schools are having is the fact that like no one knows what they're doing, right? Because no one knows what they're doing. Everyone's trying to like set the path ablaze, and everyone's trying to burn this path. And like I think we should take the Apple approach, right? Apple watches everyone else do it, and when they get the chance to do it, they do it right. It takes time, and this is a model that is growing every single day, so we don't have to sit here and rush it, right? We got to make sure that our teachers are trained properly, students know what to do, and I think that the class I had today was an amazing for it, right? It gave us 10 different ways, right? And again, it's being purposeful, it's being direct with what you want, it's making sure that everyone knows and everyone's on the same page, and again, training matters, right? So we want to make sure that all teachers, students, and everyone else in between have a great message from top to bottom that kind of resonates together and brings all that together as well.
I think my favorite class that I saw while I was here was all about how can you use AI to make your teaching more accessible to students with disabilities. And so one of the really cool things that they were using AI for was like generating alternative text for images, because now like that is going to become widespread law that like all of your things has to be ADA accessible. I think it's actually, they were saying it was like a very recent law that was passed. So it was also showing like how to generate like the hex codes for colors so that you can do the proper color contrast for students with visual impairments, like things that I just would have never thought about that would be hours of work for us that could be so simplified just by asking the right prompt. So it was really cool.
I think for me, one of like the biggest takeaways is, especially again in math, we want it to be connected to students, so like somehow bringing student interest in. But a lot of the time teachers are like, that's a lot of work to differentiate for every single student I have. But how we can use AI not only to like differentiate the assignments to match their interests, but also use AI to almost like assist us in grading and allow like not only my creativity as a teacher, but also their creativity when they're submitting work and tasks and how it relates to them, rather than just like one assignment for every single one in my room.
So outside of ISTE, I'm curious, like, what's been the biggest change over the past couple of years that you've seen in the classroom?
I think the hardest part or the biggest change in the classroom is kind of the fact that SEL is the heart of teaching now, right? I think when I was a kid, and I think I was saying a little bit earlier to Chris over there, that we want to make sure our kids all feel safe, have a safe space. I think that's one of the big things that's changed in education. And I think now, like, we are finding way more avenues to be more accommodating for students, right? Like, when we were kids, like, if you failed, kick rocks. You know, figure it out. Here, like, we want to make sure there's multiple avenues for our students to pass, multiple avenues for our students to feel safe, accommodated, and everything else in between. And I think that's the best part about education now, right? Like, this is a nurturing sport. We want to make better leaders, better people for the next future. I think that's amazing.
I think also a challenge that's developed has been student apathy. I mean, like, we're competing with technology. Like, we're competing with cell phones. Like, we have to be more interesting than their phones and, like, than whatever's going on social media at the time, and that is really freaking hard. But that's why something like ISTE is so cool, because you're finding out, like, how do you bring in the tech that they're already dying to use, and how do you make it work for you instead of have it be something that's competing for their attention. And so that's why it's worth it to go to things like this.
I think for me, like, I've only taught in a post-pandemic world. Even just the fact, like, I don't carry a notebook and a pen and paper around, even as a teacher, how, like, I have to use these online platforms, but also how students have to be able to retain their knowledge even if they don't have pen, paper, and using these online platforms has definitely been a major shift, I feel like, in this world.